In this video, I'm just going to go over the important things about Unit 2.8. Now, I know that this unit really covered CPIU, but that's really just for your understanding of what the CPI means in general. Remember, CPI is the Consumer Price Index, and the CPIU is the Urban Consumer Price Index. This can be used to kind of gauge inflation over time and how the prices of goods and services changes over time. But what this unit is really about is about absolute and relative change. So I want to just remind you about absolute and relative change. Absolute change is just a difference. It's the new value minus the old value. Relative change takes that difference and compares it to the old value. So new minus old divided by old, and then change it to a percent. You can compare relative changes of CPI and particular products to see how the product has changed in price over time and if it changed in a consistent way with the CPI. So that's really what I want you to take away from this unit. And to help you prepare for the assessment, I gave you an example that you see on your screen. So it reads, the price of a Hershey's bar has increased from 1936 to 1980. However, the Consumer Price Index for Urban Consumers, or CPIU, has also increased. Remember that the Consumer Price Index for Urban Consumers, CPIU, shows how the prices for goods and services change over time for people living in cities. In the table, you have the years 1936 and 1980. You have the cost of a Hershey bar. This is actually in cents. And the CPI for the urban CPI for those 2 years, 13.9 and 82.4. Remember, those are index numbers, so these really represent percentages. What you're asked to do here is just to compare the relative change in the cost of a Hershey bar to the relative change in the CPIU. So remember, relative change, we're taking the new minus old, dividing it by the old, and then writing that as a percent. So we're going to do that for the Hershey bar and for the CPI, and then we'll make a comparison to see which one is larger. All right, so your calculation for the Hershey bar, we have the newer value, which is the 1980 value, minus the old value, 5. It's 25 minus 5 divided by 5. So that gives us 20 divided by 5, which is 4. Now this 4 is a decimal. We're going to change that to a percent, and that would be equivalent to 400%. The CPI over the same 2 years, 82.4 minus 13.9, and then divide that by 13.9. That gives you 68.5 divided by 13.9, which is 4.93, or 493%. Now you can compare, if you're just making a comparison, you can compare the decimal values or the percents. The comparison is going to be the same, but just to show you that, the 4 means 400%. So here we would see that the relative increase of a Hershey bar is less than the relative increase in the CPIU. So that means the price of a Hershey bar did not change relatively as much, did not increase as much, relatively speaking, as the index number for those same 2 years. So this is the kind of thing that you're expected to be able to do for this section on the assessment.